Welcome back. As we get to our cash tag segment in just a moment, we're going to give a brief market update here as the S&P 500 trades down around 1%. This on a Bloomberg headline that the U.S. planning wider China tech sanctions with subsidiary crackdown. So a developing story, and when we're watching, you can see that level that it held, throughout the day, cracking as we go to new lows on the session, now down over 1%. Something we'll have at least one eye on throughout the rest of the program and throughout our programming the rest of the day as this continues to unfold here in real time. I want to welcome back in Kevin Green, as well as our next guest, the VP of Research for LikeFolio.com, Megan Brantley, to get back to regularly scheduled programming here in our cash tag segment. Megan, happy Friday. Good to see you. Hope all is well. Let's talk some Lululemon and athletic retail as a space as a whole and what you guys are tracking here.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Happy Friday. Good to chat with you guys. When we look at Lulu, this is one where the stock sold off pretty significantly after its last earnings report. There was a bit of concern over weak guidance, and management cited some slowdown in consumer spending. And when we look at things on our end, I think what's really important to note here is that our data is really heavily focused on the U.S. consumer. And so when we look at Lulu, a lot of its growth of late has been driven by international growth, but still the bulk of sales is generated to see, okay, how is the majority of consumer, what does that sales growth and just consumer interest look like? And we see continued weakness out of Lulu. We actually see kind of an accelerated loss of momentum there. Whenever you look at unique visits to Lulu's site versus a lot of other competitors, Lulu is definitely in the bottom of the pack. It is sandwiched in between Under Armour and Nike, and you have a lot of these up-and-comers like Roan, like Outdoor Voices. Alo Yoga is not on this chart, but if it were, it would be right up there, up 32% year over year with Roan. And so I think that there are some newer, perhaps more premium and even more niche brands that are starting to compete with Lulu, and we're starting to see that impact its overall market share take. If you were to look at this on a pie chart, obviously Nike and Lululemon are the largest players here, but we do see signs of, rising competition, and that really starting to weigh on Lulu's growth potential, at least here in the U.S.
Megan, is that because of a lack of innovation from Lulu, or is just the competition really kind of undercutting them when it comes to price or quality of material? What do you think is the reason for them losing market share, potentially losing market share?
I think that's a mix of both things that are going on right now. We do see a bit of a lack of innovation. Some of the topic or some of the new clothing items that Lulu has brought have been a bit controversial. Whenever we look at social media mentions, this is where things really pop. And, there have been some, like a maxi dress that people were like, what is this? This was a total miss. Like, what's happening here? It was a convertible option. And, we saw, I think it was around a year ago, Lulu put out a running pant that consumers came back and said, wait, this is awful. This makes me look horrible. This is not, in fact, what we're looking for. So it seems like Lulu lost touch a little bit with what its consumers were wanting next. And then on the flip side, you have competitors who seem to be a little bit more on trend and on brand right now, at least from a sentiment perspective. Sentiment seems to be higher. I think from a quality perspective, the quality is still there for Lulu, but a little bit of a lack of innovation. I think that maybe last Christmas, Lulu had a very viral belt bag that continually sold out. It went through a phase where it went and introduced shoes, and we just haven't seen that newness in those viral items for the good for Lulu, at least in this quarter. So it's something that we'll certainly be watching. And on the flip side, we're just seeing continued momentum from these other players. So a little bit of a sentiment lag on Lulu from the consumer front, while other players step in and kind of take advantage of that slowness.
So as we look ahead then, and we try to see, where these trends are going, Megan, I'm trying to, connect the dots from what you're saying and maybe what I've seen, just, anecdotally. Is it perhaps the case that the easy growth is gone for a company like Lulu, the easy innovation of going from, primarily selling a product to a female demographic, then kind of expanding a men's line and going there, and then accessories, that maybe now the innovation's a little bit more difficult. That maybe now we're watching the maturation of a company like Lulu, and some of these other players, Viore, Outdoor Voices, these others that you're tracking, are essentially just looking at the popular products that Lulu has and finding a way to offer them at a cheaper price point. Is that sort of what we're looking at?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of what's going on right now as Lulu matures. And, an area that we're not capturing in this data is that international growth. I know last quarter, international comp sales were up 20% year over year, while the Americas region was mainly flat. And so I think that international growth is still occurring. I know that it's expanding into 5 different European countries. So there is still a growth potential for Lulu, and it certainly can continue to expand its presence there. But a little bit concerning on our end to see this kind of flatness and lack of newness, at least in the excitement levels among the U.S. shoppers and U.S. spenders, especially ahead of this earnings report. The bar is considerably low, I would say. And so a lot of times we like to look for divergence opportunities here where, okay, we've got a low bar and maybe expectations can beat on a good but not great report, but we don't necessarily think that this is the case heading into Lulu earnings this time.
So if you had that earnings score, then Megan, real quick, is it in the negative, I'm guessing?
It is in the negative. We're not officially bearish just because, like I mentioned, that score or the expectations, the bar is pretty low. But I think that our data, if you were to take a bet, it definitely leans more to the bearish side, which is a bit odd for us because this was a name that consumers really loved. It had one of the highest sentiment scores in our data as a whole, and now is somewhat normalizing. So just something to watch out moving forward. Another area we haven't really hit on are those men's sales, and we're seeing a little bit of a sign of weakness among interest there, and that has also been a growth driver of late. So a couple of red flags popping up in our Lulu data.
Unprecedented in many ways for a company like Lulu. Megan Brantley, VP of Research, LikeFolio.com. Really appreciate it. You have a great weekend, and thanks for the setup. Lulu, of course, earnings next week. Kevin, now you get the fun job